Welcome back. I hope you guys are all hanging in there. As you guys can see, and part of our delay here was we are in a different location, obviously, and so we're not at the normal Star Tutors office headquarters, which created some Wi-Fi issues. So that's why we're starting here a little bit late. But in any case, we're excited to have you guys. I hope you guys are ready to take a practice test today. As we get into the live chat, as you guys and you get into the live stream, if you haven't been with us before, one of the things I ask you to do, just so we know who's on and we can answer any comments or questions you guys have, can everybody just give me a thumbs up in the chat section? It should be in either the top right corner or bottom right corner of your screen. If you don't see the chat, and again, this is not a reason to subscribe to the channel. I hope you guys subscribe anyway. But if you don't see the chat and you would like to participate today and ask questions, you can just hit subscribe to the channel, and then refresh the page and the chat should show up. We've had that issue before. Hey, Deb, welcome. Welcome, guys. Again, apologies on the late start here, but I hope you guys are all ready to go. I'll try to move through my normal little warm-up and spiel relatively quickly so that you guys are ready to go. Derek, welcome, guys. Yeah, welcome, Derek. So just before we get started with any type of warm-up or anything along those lines, does anybody have any general questions? Can anybody give me some thoughts or some feelings on general questions related to the SAT or ACT test? For seniors, if you guys have specific questions related to, again, I'm going to be online, obviously, as soon as we get the test started to answer any additional questions, not only related to the students that are taking the practice test, but students who are not as well. So as you guys get online here, if you have any questions that are more specific, especially if you're a senior, please don't hesitate to hang on to those questions, and I'll answer everything over the course of the next hour or 2 hours. For those that are just joining us, once again, as you guys get into the chat, can everybody give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, or a hello in the chat, just to make sure that you guys that I know who's here and that I know that you guys have the ability to answer questions. This is going to be particularly important for students who are taking the test today, taking the practice test today. For students who are taking the practice test, please make sure that you have your exam form ready. So exam forms should look like, they should be either like the A10 ACT exam form, the SAT test number 8, something along those lines. As soon as you guys get in, can you also confirm, for those that are taking the practice test, that you have your exam form as well as your bubble sheet, your answer sheet printed out and ready to go? Okay, for those that haven't already commented, that if you guys have any questions, thoughts, concerns before we get started here, please let me know, and please just respond in the chat by joining and saying hello or giving us a thumbs up, just so that we know who's here, who's participating, and so that I can address you guys as we go. We have a mobile headquarters now, as you guys have seen. For those that have joined our previous, if you've joined our previous live streams, you guys know that we're not in our typical headquarters. We've moved mobile. So welcome to the first ever mobile Star Tutors headquarters as we get going here. Okay. So again, guys, if you're taking the practice test, let's get started here. Let's start talking a little bit. The first thing that I want you guys to realize or recognize is that it's very important as you get started with the practice test. And again, for those that are going to ask questions afterwards that are more specific, just hang on to those. I'll make sure that I'll answer those in the chat. And yeah, I'll make sure that I answer those in the chat. This is not, guys, for the record, this is not one of those real-time videos that we do where I sit down and take the entire test with the timer going. This is for anybody that wants to take a practice test today. I'm going to lead you guys through a warm-up, the things that I would want you to do and that I encourage our students to do in our own programs, in our own classrooms. The things that I encourage students to do before the real exam are the same things that I communicate to you guys here in these live streams for these practice tests. I want you to try to use this to the best of your ability like you're taking the real test. Of course, for seniors, this is even more important because for the first time ever, you might have to take the test with a mask, right? You might have to drive somewhere further than you normally would have. And so it's very important that you simulate that you're ready to go, that you're thinking about all of those things so that when the test rolls around, it's just like any other day, okay? So again, make sure that you guys are in the right place, that you're sitting in a quiet place if you're going to take the test today. These are all very important things that most 16, 17-year-olds don't think about too often. Believe me, I didn't think about the next day, let alone college or anything else. And that doesn't help you. That doesn't it just doesn't help you in life. Now, from test taking standpoint, I happen to be good at these solely because I wasn't stressed about anything when I was a kid. That is a horrible trait for everything else in your life, but for test taking, it happens to be a really good one because the concepts that are on the ACT and the SAT are very, very basic level concepts for a high school math class. I know it might not seem that way. I know it might seem more overwhelming, but a lot of times it seems more overwhelming solely because we put so much stress and pressure on it. If you guys really look at the concepts that are tested on, let's say you're taking the SAT math test today. If you really look at the concepts that are tested on the SAT math test, nothing goes above Algebra 2. And in fact, so many of the questions, there's 10 questions on the 58 question SAT math test between the calculator and no calculator sections. Between those two sections, there are 5 linear equations questions. I kid you not, dealing with just y equals mx plus b going all the way back to Algebra 1. And there are 5 systems of equations problems where you just substitute, you deal with something with substitution, and you're solving for one variable. That's 10 of 58 questions. That's over 15% of the test. And if you guys recognize that, then all of a sudden the concepts aren't really the issue. It's just about getting in the right mindset and being stress-free, no anxiety, all that kind of stuff when you sit down for test day. So again, guys, if you're just joining us, can you guys please make sure that you give us a hello in the comments section, that you give us a thumbs up. If you want to remain anonymous for whatever reason, can you just give me a thumbs up on the video below hand, just so that we know how many people are going to be participating today? I get it if you don't want to comment or you can't see the chat right now. And again, this isn't just so that you guys like our videos. I just want to make sure that we know how many people are going to be participating so that I can help walk you guys through this. If you do feel comfortable participating, please make sure, if you have questions, please make sure that you do say hello in the chat or give us a thumbs up in the chat if you haven't already, so that we know who's here. I know we're getting off to a little bit of a late start here, but not always the worst thing in the world. Okay, and so without further ado, let me talk to you guys about a few things, okay? And this helped me so much when I was a kid, taking these exams, and it's something that I try to communicate to everybody no matter what, as often as I possibly can. So the first thing that I want you guys to recognize, and I'm going to bring up an ACT scale here, is just how important it is to continue to move through the test, to continue to have momentum. So this is good. This is the A11 exam form. For those that have seen it, I took the full A11 test all in one sitting, all on one live stream. It was very exhausting, so I feel for you guys as you work through this. But this is test number 1 in the brand new ACT test guide. Okay, this is test number 1 in the 2020-2021 ACT test guide. It's the A11 test form. Okay, and so as you guys look through this, in the same exact scoring, this applies to the SAT as well. And one of the things that I want you guys to realize is that a 36 on the ACT, right, or a corresponding 1600 on the SAT, the most important thing that you guys can realize is that those are made up numbers. It wasn't like Isaac Newton was sitting around 400 years ago, who the right unbelievable mathematician and physicist, and sitting around being like, you know what would be the perfect scoring system for a standardized test? It would be a 36. Oh, and you know what? If it wasn't a 36, the second best would be a 1600. That never happened, right? These are completely arbitrary scores. They have nothing to do with anything else in your life. They just happen to be the scoring system for the ACT and the SAT. And the reason I bring this up and the reason it's so important is because when I was a kid looking at these tests and trying to get good scores, all that stuff, I never thought about any test score ever, even in school, in terms of in terms of the score, what I needed to get a 95%. I always thought about it in terms of the number of questions I needed to answer correctly. And this is so, so important on a test like the ACT or the SAT, because as you guys start this off, you need to realize that this spiel that I'm giving in the first 15 minutes of this, an extended version of this, is the single most important thing that you can recognize about these tests. And that's that it's graded on a bell curve. That's a horrible bell curve. Sorry, guys. Right? That's that it's graded on a bell curve. And so if you guys see that this bell curve this is the middle 50%, right? All the way out here would be like a 30. And then even further, as we get closer and closer to this line, right? That's where you get to a 36. And that's the number of students that are testing to get a 36, right? There's a top 1%. And if you guys can believe it, a 30 is in the top 6% of all students. So that's an unbelievable score. But the reason I bring all this stuff up before you guys get started with the test is I want you to recognize, let's say we're trying to get a 30, and I think on the ACT, the same thing is true on the SAT. It's almost exactly the same. In some ways, the SAT, and maybe I'll talk about that for briefly, but in some ways, the SAT is even easier to understand. But if you're trying to get a 30 on the ACT, you don't want to think about it as like, how do I need to get a 30, right? You want to think about it as, how many questions do I need to answer correctly? And then you go find those questions and you guarantee accuracy. If you're looking to get a 30 on the math section or you're looking to get a 25 on the math section, look at this, guys. To get a 25 on the ACT math section, so if you're looking to improve from, let's say, to a 20 to a 25, if you go 36 out of 60, which is a D in school, that's a 25, which is in the top 25% of all students that take this exam on the ACT math test. So your goal should not be, how do I get a 25? I'm so nervous, I'll never get my goal score of 34, which is already an unbelievable score. That's so much pressure on yourself if you go into the test thinking, I got to get a 34. That may have, when I was a kid, that may have been my goal score to achieve, but rather, in order to achieve that, when you go into the test, you have to think, how many questions do I need to get right to get a 34? Well, if I answer 53 questions right, and I guarantee that those are accurate, and I guess on the remaining 7 questions, I'm going to get +2 if I guess the same letter down. I'm going to get 2 or 3 additional questions right. And so suddenly I'm thinking about this test as I got to get 53 out of 60 questions right on the math test. I have to guarantee accuracy on all 53 of those. But in order to do that, I'm going to take away all of the time I would have spent on the 7 hard questions that I thought were hard. That's why I skipped them. And I'm going to take that 7 minutes, right, 7 to 10 minutes, and I apply it to make sure that I get those 53 questions right. Then I guess the same letter down. Let me show you how easy this is. And for those that have watched our real-time videos, you guys have seen this multiple times before. But watch this, guys, right? Let's just theoretically say, and sorry, there's writing here. Let's just theoretically say that I answer the first 53 questions on the ACT math test correctly. Okay, so I answer all the first 53. I'm 53 and I'm sitting at a 32. But I've skipped the remaining questions to guarantee accuracy. Watch this. I'm just going to guess B and G the rest of the way down. If you guys want to check out why I would have picked B and G, which you can pick it correctly, you can pick the right letter correctly every time. Check out our ACT guessing video. You get 3 additional questions right. And this is true of every math test. We've done enough live streams where if you guys go back and watch them all, I promise this works. Okay, where I've sat down and taken any random math section, that's a 34. And so again, this whole test, and the same is true of the SAT, the whole test is based on number of questions answered correctly, not some arbitrary score that's just made up. It's just made up. 36 has no bearing on anything else that you'll ever see in your life other than the ACT, and it's 1600, same thing with the SAT. But it's about moving through this exam and thinking about the number of questions answered correctly rather than thinking about, I got to get this goal score. If I don't get this goal score, my parents are going to be so pissed and I'm not going to get into Harvard and I'm going to be a failure. Right? Instead of thinking about that way, you got to think about how many questions do I have to get right to achieve close to my goal score. And so the final thing I'll leave you with before we start this warm-up and get those students that are ready to get started here for the real test, I want you guys to think about this score as your floor. Okay? What's the score? What's the minimum amount of questions based on your practice tests, right? Don't set it at some crazy high number if you haven't been testing at that because that's just going to add stress to you. That's not really a floor score. You want to set your floor score rather than your ceiling score. And this is what, again, as a kid, everything I thought about was related to floor score. What did I have to do minimally? And that's a horrible trait in everything except for standardized test taking when you're in a stressful environment. Because I was just able to think about this as, okay, to get a 34 in the math section, all I need to do is get 53 to 54 questions answered correctly out of 60. Man, that gives me a lot of leeway to feel totally comfortable skipping 6 or 7. And still feeling like if I was accurate on the other ones, I'm still going to get my floor score. So I thought about this as how many questions do I need to answer correctly in order to get my floor score? Can everybody give me 2 thumbs up? I kid you not that this is the single most important thing. If you understand this aspect, I know this because I was a horrible student and I did the minimum amount of work on every other aspect of classwork, AP tests, right? That doesn't help you because you do need to know the concepts. On a test like this where the concepts are relatively basic compared to what some of you, especially some of you are doing in high school right now, this is the best way to think about this. So floor score, give me 2 thumbs up in the chat if this all makes sense, and then we'll get started here with a warm-up and get you guys going. For those that are taking the practice test, we'll get you guys going today. Set your floor. What is the minimum amount of questions that I need to answer correctly today in order to achieve a result that I will be comfortable with? Maybe it's not my best day ever, But what this does then, guys, is it takes the stress away. Okay, so a final thing here, if I were to go into every test thinking, okay, I need to get 53 questions right to get a 34, which I knew was in the top 1%. I was very good about that, about knowing exactly what my percentiles were. I was very competitive, so I wanted to win. I wanted to be better, but I wasn't willing to put in the work to get every question right. Having said that, you will, some of you, to get a 36 on the ACT math section, some of you will just have a great day. Right? You'll just have a great day. And if you take this 3 times, of one of those 3 ACT scores, you might just have an unbelievable day. And so while your goal may have been a 53, which took all the stress off, I don't want you to just sit back and take a nap if you know how to do the other questions. Maybe you just have a great day. And while your goal score is 53 and that gets you a 33 or a 34 on the ACT math test, right? Because you guess on the other 7 questions, maybe you just have a great day and you realize, hey, I can answer 5 more of these right. I feel pretty good about that. I can get 58 out of 60, and now I'm talking about a 35 or 36. The final thing I'll leave you with is kind of an inspirational story before you guys get going. We had an ACT student, and I know that this is both ACT and SAT, so I apologize for any SAT test takers and feeling like I'm skewing more towards the ACT. 2 years ago, we had a student who scored a 35 overall on this exam, which is great. Obviously, in the classes. He scored 35 overall. But the reason I bring him up is not because he scored a 35 or to put pressure on you guys or to compare you guys to somebody else. The reason I bring this up is because he trusted me. And I get that it's hard to do that when you're 16 years old, because I didn't listen to anybody when I was your age, and I did a bunch of dumb things, and I had fun doing them, but it was just not in the right mindset. This guy trusted me, and he said, you know what, I'm going to listen to this. On all of his practice tests, this was his official score. On all of his practice tests, his hardest section was reading. Okay? His hardest ACT section was reading. And he could get 35, 35, and then on reading he would get 28, and then on science he'd come back and get a 35. So reading was the one section that was throwing him off. And so he trusted me to say, I don't want this reading score to bring me down too much. So rather than focusing on the reading, I'm going to answer 3 out of the 4 passages. I'm just going to answer 3 out of the 4 passages. Okay, and then I'm going to guess the same letter the rest of the way down. I'm going to guarantee accuracy on these 3. There's 3 passages on ACT reading, and the SAT is very similar, so you guys can think about it this way. Okay, there are 3 passages on ACT reading, and he was so good about this. He listened to me. He wasn't, and that's not always a good thing, but in some cases it is a good thing to listen to me. Okay, but he was so good about being accurate and focusing and trusting that this worked, that let me show you what happened. He would read the whole, for those that have watched our other videos, I'm so adamant about reading everything. But he would read the entire passage very diligently, very focused, and he was so good about constantly answering on his practice tests 30 out of 40 questions correctly, or at worst 30 out of 30, or 29 out of 30. And so he would come into the final passage with 29 out of 30 or 30 out of 30 answered correctly. And because he had spent more time being focused on those 3 and not worrying about the last one, he would then just guess the same letter down. And again, there is a strategy for which letter you should guess. If you haven't seen our other videos, or you haven't been in our programs before, go check out those other videos that we have for free on our YouTube channel. There is a strategy to guess, and watch what happens. Just like I saw in the math test on those last 7, one answer choice, right? AF is an answer column on the bubble sheet. One answer choice for a reason shows up 4 times in the last 10 questions. And so what he would do is he would get 30 out of 30, and then on the last one he would just guess 4 out of 10 right, or maybe 3 out of 10 right. But because he was so good about accuracy, he would end up with 33 or 34 questions answered correctly. And look what that was on the math test, right? On the reading test, 33 out of 34, boom. He was guaranteeing himself a floor score of 30 or 31 every time he took reading. But that's beside the point, and that's not what I wanted to tell you guys about him. Okay, this student was so good. Where is it writing that stuff? And then I'll leave you guys, do the warm-up, and we'll go. This student was so good about accuracy that he was getting 30 out of 30. But on test day, because he was more focused, he wasn't stressed, he had done well, he thought, on the math and the English sections prior to this, he went into the reading section with some serious confidence and serious momentum. And on the final passage, he got to the final passage. He called me right after. He was like, is this weird? Did I make a mistake? Because we had practiced for this so much. On the final passage, he said he got to the final one with 7:45 left. He had never done that before. He had almost always had like 30 seconds to a minute left to guess the same letter down. The final passage, he gets there with 7:45 left because he's in the real environment. He has the confidence, the positivity, the momentum. And he's like, well, I guess I'll just keep going, right? I don't want you guys to take a nap. Gets to passage number 4. And guess what? Because he had been so focused on accuracy, he kept taking the test the exact same way. He answered 8 additional questions right. And because he was so focused on accuracy, all of them were accurate. He guessed one of the last 2 right that he didn't get to because he still wasn't focused on time. He knew he could guess on the last 2. He ended up with 39 out of 40 questions right. And despite never having scored above, I think, a 31 or 32 on any practice test ever on the reading section, on test day, he ended up with a 36. Because of that confidence and positivity and momentum. And if you guys keep working towards that, I guarantee you guys can see the same exact results. But it's going into the test thinking, how do I maximize my score today? That might not be the best I've ever done. It might, but in the conditions that I'm in, feeling the way that I'm feeling, what's the best I can do today? And if you keep that positive momentum, one day you'll have that great, unbelievable day like this student had, and you run away with the test. And that's what you get. He ended up with a 35 despite never having scored above a 33 overall on a practice test. He ended up with a 35 on the real thing. It's just, we've seen things like that a lot, and I just want you guys to keep that positivity and keep that momentum up, especially if you're a senior and you're taking this test today and you feel overwhelmed as it is. I guarantee you guys can do well if you keep that momentum going. Okay, so just that's the last thing that I want to bring up, okay, before we get going. For students that are taking the test, can everybody give me one more thumbs up or good to go in the practice section, or I'm sorry, in the chat? One more good to go. The last thing that I want to bring up, and I want everybody to do this and get started with this warm-up, I'd like everybody to, if you don't have your Star U student account yet, I'd like everybody to log into their Star U student account or download the app now. So download Star U in the App Store. This is all free, by the way, guys. You don't have to pay. Star U in the App Store. Or www.staru.co or Google Play. Okay? I want you guys to do that now, and I want you to create a student account. Again, it's free. It takes 5 seconds. But one of the things I'm so adamant about before we start any practice test or any practice section is doing some practice problems. So I want everybody to download that now, okay, if you haven't already. And I want you to log into your student account. And then I want you to click ACT, SAT practice lessons on the home screen. Or if you have the older version, it's just ACT and SAT, whichever test you're taking. Okay, ACT, SAT practice tests sections. Okay, and then I just want you to do 4 or 5 minutes of practice problems. Again, this is all free. You just have to download the app, log in, click ACT English, and then all of the content that our current tutors write and edit every single time a new test is released is all included as part of this, right? So if you guys log in here, I just want you to, there's verb tense, right? And there's our PDF from our actual tutorials. That's right, we sell those, but it's free here on the app. And then I just want you guys to click tap to start and do a few practice problems. Okay, just do a few practice problems now that relate to verb tense. So then the first time you see a practice or a real question on the ACT test today, it's not the first one you've seen of the day. It's not like you start the test, because we've seen so many students start the exam and miss 5 of the first 10 questions solely because they weren't warmed up, right? They're nervous, there's that anxiety, and then they get 50 questions right in a row, and that tells me that those first 10 had nothing to do with grammar. It had everything to do with just getting into the mindset. When you guys are in the real testing line, right, when you're sitting there registering for the test to go into the real test center, don't be doing that thing with your friend where you're like, I'm going to fail this, I'm such a, right, I can't wait to get this over with. Be there, be present, do the best you can on test day, and part of that is sitting there on your phone, because this is available on everybody's phones. Sit there and on your phone and be doing practice problems as you go and you stand in line to register, so that when you start the real test, hey, there's an underlined word, just like I was doing on the practice problems on my phone 2 seconds ago. Okay, so let's everybody start that, and let's spend maybe 5 minutes. Can everybody give me a good to go? If you guys haven't downloaded the app, please do so now. It's available, or you can click that link I just posted, staru.co, and that's the desktop version if you guys are on your computer right now. Either way, create a student account, and let's do practice problems until 10:25, 10:26. That's, or my time, I guess, so the 25:26 marker, 3 or 4 minutes. Let's do a few practice problems to get started here, and then we'll get you guys into the test. Okay, it's so important to be doing these practice problems, guys. I cannot stress it enough. When you get into the real test and the real mindset, all of a sudden you're not thinking about it as like, oh my God, what am I about to do? I'm gonna fail this. I don't feel good about this at all. I'm gonna disappoint myself. I'm gonna disappoint my parents. I'm never getting into my goal school, right? I know the thoughts. I've worked with enough students over the last 7-8 years, and I've been in that position not that long ago. that I know that feeling of anxiety, and we want to try to eliminate that, because if we do, the concepts are not very hard on either test, and where the sky is the limit. Just like I told you with the student that on test day raised his score by 4 points on the reading section solely because he wasn't stressed out. Guys, by the way, for anybody that's hanging on here for the, so I'm not going to do a real-time, this isn't going to be a real-time video where I take the test in real time. Okay, this isn't going to be one of those videos. This is just a proctored practice test. And then if you guys have any questions, I'm going to stay on for about an hour, hour and a half after this, so that you guys can answer any questions you guys might have on the test. But I'm not going to do a real-time video. Those will be released early next week. If you are taking, this is just the design for taking the practice test today. And then as soon as you guys are done with the warm-up here in 2 or 3 minutes, we'll get you guys started. We'll get all the students that are taking a full practice test proctored, right, trying to be as diligent as possible. We'll get you guys started, and then I'll answer any questions that you guys might have. Okay, guys, 1 to 2 more minutes. 1 to 2 more minutes as we get going here. Let's do a few practice questions. We're not trying to overdo it, right? We're not trying to get ourselves more stressed. We're just trying to do a few practice problems, just like we would do on our phones, standing in line, getting ready to go, so that we can be in the right mindset, get the right feeling as we go into the real test. Give you guys another minute or so, and then we'll get started with the real thing. I guess we'll get started. For those that are taking the full practice test, we'll get that started. Okay, guys, maybe another 15 seconds. Just want to get you guys in the right mindset before you start the test. For those that are joining us and taking the real test today, just want to get you guys in the right mindset. All right, so as you guys finish up with the warm-up, for those that are taking a full practice test with us today, so right, we're going to do the whole virtually proctored practice test. We're going to do this every Saturday in September, so that to accommodate particularly the seniors who I know have been just battling through this, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your continued hard work on that. So we're going to do these every Saturday, where we'll walk you through the full practice test and proctoring just like you'd see on test day, to try to simulate it as much as possible like the real thing. Okay, so if you guys are taking the test today, can you everybody just give me a good to go in the comments in the chat section? Good to go in the chat section, just so I know that you guys are ready. You guys have done your warm-up. You've done the things that I'd like you to do on test day. And we'll start with SAT test takers. So for everybody that's taking the SAT test today, okay, for everybody that's taking the SAT test today, in the chat section now, you guys are going to see a proctoring video. Okay, I want you to click that video. Okay, Derek, thanks, man. Okay, I want you to click this video for SAT test takers first, and I'll get to ACT test takers. I'm going to post the proctoring video. Ideally, with these videos that we've done, we've accounted for everything that you could possibly see on the exam, including timers on the screen for each section, the breaks that you'd get for each time section, right, for both SAT and ACT. Once you start the video, once you click go on the video, ideally you won't stop it all the way through, because it does it unless it says to in the video, because it accounts for the breaks, it gives you the timers, so that would be the real simulation to what you'd see. You can't pause the video and go to the bathroom in the middle of a section because you won't do that on test day. You won't be allowed to do that on test day. So again, once you start the video, unless prompted by the video to stop, you should watch the whole thing all the way through, meaning that you should find 3 to 3.5 hours of quiet space in order to take this. Okay, so for SAT test takers, what I'd like you to do is when you see this video posted in the chat, click the video link, mute this video, this live stream, because I'm going to stay online, and put me up in the top corner somewhere. Okay, and so mute me, put me up in case you have a question while you're going through and you need to ask it. You don't have to go search for me or find me, right? You can just go click that, type it into the chat, and ask me that question, and I'll be sure to respond right away. And then start the video, the proctoring video that's now posted in the chat. This is for SAT test takers. Start the video and watch it all the way through. Take your full test. You guys will be good to go. Okay, same exact instructions for ACT test takers. Let me post that video as well. Once you start the video, once you click start, please don't stop the video unless prompted by it so that you can really simulate this as closely as possible to the real thing. It has timers on the screen. It should lead you through the entire test, exactly how you'd see it on test day. Okay, and then again, for ACT test takers, please start the video, mute this live stream, mute me, but keep me open, and put me in the corner or somewhere on another screen, whatever, just so that if you do have questions sometime in the next hour or two as you get going into the test, if you do have questions, you can quickly answer those, or you can quickly ask those, and I'll be sure to answer them, and you don't have to scramble to find me somewhere on YouTube. Okay, so that's ACT test takers. Just posted that video for you. For the SAT and ACT test takers that are taking the exam today, good luck. Thank you for all of your hard work and for participating. I really appreciate it. I know how hard it's been, especially for the seniors, given all of the circumstances. And so if you guys have any questions for us, please let me know. Okay? So good luck, guys. Good luck to everybody taking it. So in terms of everybody else sitting and waiting, if you guys have any questions, so again, guys, this is not a real-time ACT video. We'll produce those. We have those in the works. I already took 2 sections, the CO2 section, so I took those. But those won't be released. This is not a video where I'll sit there and do the full test in real time like I've done in the past for other sections. This is not one of those videos. So if you're waiting around for that, I'm sorry. I won't be taking any tests today. But we will do those. We're going to try to have 4 released by this Friday, 4 new section videos, but 4 released before the September 19th test either way. And yeah, guys, so that'll be there. Otherwise, I'm going to mute this. I'm going to mute the speech part of this now, but I'm going to remain online for the next hour and a half to answer any questions you guys have in the comments, the chat section. So if you have any general questions about the ACT or the SAT, please don't hesitate to stay on and just ask those. In the chat. I'm happy to answer any of even the most specific questions you guys have. I'm happy to answer those in the chat. So in any case, guys, good luck for those that are taking the test, and I'm gonna mute the volume here, and then ask me any questions you guys have in the chat section for the next hour and a half. All right, guys. All right, guys, so with that, I'm going to sign off here. I know that you guys had a couple questions. I apologize. I do have to run, but we're going to be doing these every Saturday. And so if you're taking the September, 12th test, this week we have some, in fact, let me post those before I run. We do have our comprehensive review video that we do every time before the real test. So we do have our comprehensive review video this Thursday. And then we have our ACT hype video on Friday to make sure that you guys are feeling very comfortable. So this is Thursday, comprehensive review, and I'll go through each section during that review and then answer any questions like I did today as well. So this is the comprehensive review live stream. We encourage you guys to check that out, especially if you're taking the test on the 12th. Then we have our September 12th hype video, which is just to give you guys a pep talk, some advice before you guys go into that Saturday test. We'll be doing this for the 19th test as well, so look out for those videos. And then we'll have a proctored practice test today, obviously, next Saturday, and the following Saturday, say the 12th and the 19th as well. And those live streams are all available on our channel. So Friday then, ACT hype video for ACT hype live stream for September 12th test. And that's the video for that one. And again, guys, then if you have any questions, so I'm sorry that I didn't get to everybody's questions today, but if you have any questions, please comment below this video so we can kind of keep it in one place, just general questions like I was answering in the chat today. If you guys have general questions, please comment those below this video, and one of our teachers or teaching assistants will get to those very, very quickly, so we just won't do it live, but somebody will, so just post any questions you guys have in terms of strategy advice, in terms of what you'd like to be doing better, what you'd like, which section you'd like to be doing better on, all that kind of stuff. Post those in the comment section below this video, and one of our teachers or teaching assistants will get to that for you guys. Okay, otherwise, guys, I can't tell you how just proud and impressed I am that you guys are putting in this hard work, especially if you're going to be a senior, and given all these terrible circumstances that have kind of surrounded this test, cancellations, all that stuff. So just keep up the hard work, control what you can control, do everything in your power to answer more questions correctly and accurately rather than focusing on the one difficult one. Same thing goes in life this week. If you're taking the test on September 12th, control what you can control. If you know that you're going to have to wear a mask, then don't worry about it. It just is what it is. While you're taking the test, if you have to wear a mask, it just is what it is. So practice with the mask on, or just set that expectation. So rather than worrying about something that is just how it's going to be, you deal with it as it comes, and that's a huge component of this test. They want to see how you guys respond to stressful situations and just being endurance, right? That whole 3 hours is a long time to be taking a test. That's what they want to see, and this is a very stressful time to begin with. And so if you know you have to take it with a mask on, then just wear a mask and practice while you guys are working this week for those that are seniors, again, taking the test on Saturday. Okay, otherwise, guys, yeah, we have a number of things that are coming up this week that are going to help you guys get ready for Saturday. If you have any questions for us, please comment below this video. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day, a great rest of your weekend. For those that are in the U.S., I hope you guys have a great Labor Day on Monday, or for anywhere that has Labor Day on Monday. And otherwise, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you this week for those live streams, comprehensive reviews, and look out for those 2 new real-time videos that we filmed and are just in the process of editing to check those out before the test as well. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks, guys.